There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
What's up and welcome into the Program Roundup. I'm Patrick Hertzberger. With me today is Ryan Tyson, Matt Gann, and Mark Hall, and we are brought to you by our friends at the Fan Stop. Guys, go to thefanstop.com. They are absolutely awesome. If you want a t-shirt of your favorite collegiate school sent to your door every single month, join their Shirt of the Month club and use our promo code PGUYZ, that's PGUYZ, for 15% off your first 3 months. Or if you want a game day polo, use our code PGUYZ, or they have other merch now too. Go use our code and have a great time with awesome merch. Guys, the NCAA college football season is over, with Michigan crowned the champions against Washington last night. Matt called it. What are your initial thoughts? Matt, we'll start with you because you called the game.
I did. If we could take the clip from last week's pod and we just enter it right now, and we just went back, I was spot on. I said this wasn't going to be a close game, and I'll give credit where credit is due. Washington kept it close when they scored that last touchdown before the half, but Michigan absolutely dominated this team on both sides of the ball, especially in the trenches up front. And I figured that Michigan could get pressure, which they did. Michael Penix was under a lot of pressure, didn't feel comfortable in the pocket. The way he was throwing it just didn't look the same as he was throwing it in the Texas game. That was due to the pressure that Michigan was able to bring. But you saw Michigan, what they wanted to do, Big Ten football, play in the trenches, run the football. I know they ran over, I think, 200 yards. So this is what I called. Michigan was clearly the better team. Washington had a great season, but Michigan was definitely the better team in this game, and they proved to be all year round. So congrats to the Michigan Wolverine. There's still a bunch of cheaters, but congrats to them for winning.
I want to point out what the point that you make about the physicality of Michigan is the right one. That's the main difference between the two teams and the way they played out last night, because all game long, you're right. They didn't even have to be in Penix's face for him to act like a quarterback under pressure, right? Or similar with the receivers. We saw very uncharacteristic drops. We saw very uncharacteristic just misplays against a defender or misruns of a route. And I truly think it's just Michigan came out, punched him in the mouth early. And even though they were able to sort of weather the blows, especially on defense, give Washington's defense credit for standing in there in the middle of that game before it got away from them. There's a long stretch where it's 17-10 and you don't know what's going to happen. Right. But ultimately, I think the physicality of Michigan's defense, along with that offensive line that we knew was going to be all that, it just was too much. I think I probably made my prediction a little bit as a prisoner of the moment, and that's something I need to work on. So good on you, Matt, for really seeing through the smoke last week.
Ryan, what are your thoughts on Michigan's 34-13 win over Washington?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that both Mark and Gann said. I think I'm going to take a different approach to it because, content. I thought Penix was terrible last night. I thought he was bad. Like, I understand the pressure. I understand that Michigan's physicality brought something different to the playing field, and I want to give them credit where it's due. But the dude that we saw against Texas, who is also a physical team and a large team, maybe not as much as Michigan, but the gap between what we saw last night versus what we saw against Texas was much larger than the gap of the physicality between Texas and Michigan, in my opinion. I think that something I don't know if he was in his head. I don't know if all those things that Mark talked about the physicality, I'm sure impacted this, but he was missing wide open throws. He was like overthrowing people. He was underthrowing people. He was dodging, pressure in weird ways that he wasn't doing against Texas. For somebody who we looked at in that Texas game and said, this is the best player in the entire like league. Like what he's showing right now, he should have won the Heisman. And then to go out there in your 6th year, I think he's the 6th year, and you're in the biggest game of your life, and you lay an egg, not great. Like it's just not great. Like I think that or Washington had a chance, especially with what Matt said at like the end of the first half. They stop them on 4th down. I thought Washington's defense played great all game. They stop on 4th down, they score, they go in the halftime, they're gonna get the ball back. In like the first or second play, he throws an interception. And it just cratered from there. And I mean, they still had chances. And then he throws another pick that turns into basically a pick 6, right? And then it really crumbles. It's just so unlike the Penix that we saw against Texas and the Penix that we've been seeing all year. And I think all credit to Michigan, but he should have played better and he should have been better. And I think people were expecting him to be better. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I think that's, you can, like you flipped it, we can also flip it,
Sure.
What did Texas do that made Penix look so good that Michigan was able to have the exact opposite effect, right? Really shut him down.
Yeah.
Patrick, you haven't told us too much of your thoughts on the game. As a fellow Husky rooter last night, how are you feeling?
Was absolutely going for the Huskies last night. The game to me felt closer than the score of 34-13, but at the same time, Washington was never really in it. And at halftime,
I disagree. They were. Like at halftime, they were.
At halftime, you're right. That's exactly what I'm saying. At halftime, I think everyone was a bit optimistic that they could come back into this game, except until like he threw the interception on that first, maybe the second play. What was most surprising to me is that Michael Penix had been in these crucial situations throughout the season with Washington State, with Oregon, and he came back and he won those games. So I really felt after halftime he was going to get his head in the game and go out there and not dominate, but play much better than his performance in the first half. And it just never happened. And that was ultimately the Achilles heel. Credit to Michigan on the pressure that they did provide. Their defense played great. It was a suffocating defense. Really fun defense to watch. But ultimately, that Michigan team wasn't better than the teams who have won the college football playoffs in the past. Maybe one of the worst teams who have won the college football playoffs in the past.
Spicy.
Yeah, definitely. In my opinion, there's not much on that offense. There's not much going on the offense there.
Fun question here. If it was Michigan
go
versus
ahead.
Georgia.
Georgia wins.
Georgia.
Everyone's like Georgia.
Georgia's well, and I was gonna make them my LVP for that reason, Georgia, but let's just talk about it now, right? Aren't they feeling the worst about how the playoff all played out? Because you watch all four of the teams in the first game or first set of games, and no one really looks dominant. And then last night you have this very long stretch where it takes Penix handing the ball to them for Michigan to really get things going. JJ McCarthy went 10 of 18. I'm so tired of JJ McCarthy, great quarterback. What are we doing here? He is
140 yards.
He's Brock Purdy with a PR guy.
Yeah.
For that offense. I am so hey, they won. I can't take that away from them. They went undefeated. Their head coach was suspended for 6 games for cheating, but they went undefeated. And props to them. They're going to get that trophy for at least some number of years.
Well, you don't know, but
yeah, if you would have told people at the beginning before the game that JJ McCarthy was only going to throw or complete 10 passes for 140 yards, I think he would take that all day. They just couldn't stop him on the ground game, which I misspoke. I thought they only had a little over 200. They had 38 carries for 303. And Donovan Edwards came out of nowhere. He had 6 carries for 104, including 2 big touchdown runs. And obviously Blake Corum does what Blake Corum does and has 21 for 134 and another 2 tutties. So this is all about the ground game in the trenches, the offensive line really having their way from Washington. But I think this has really been the story. JJ McCarty, sorry,
Whatever you
game
want to call him, Matt.
manager. Yeah, game manager.
Why'd you do
makes
that?
throws when he needs
It's
to.
amazing.
But the run game is what's been Michigan's bread and butter and playing defense. So it proved it. But I just think at the beginning the committee got it wrong. They left out Georgia, who's clearly one of the best 4 teams. I don't think Washington or even Texas should have been in at that point. Maybe Washington, but definitely Georgia over Texas. However you want to do it. But it's all going to be solved next year when there's 12 teams and they're going to all have to duke it out. And all these teams
And
will have an
Georgia's just going to
opportunity.
win every year.
Potentially. We'll see.
If they're the best team,
Yeah.
out of
They're the
12.
best team.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think
think-
I saw this point made on Twitter a lot. Oh, here, you go ahead because mine
No,
a
I
slight change.
no. Well, okay. I think the only other thing that I picked up, which I think is important, especially going into next year, is I think you could tell not just the physicality difference between these two teams, but the conditioning difference between these two teams. And what I mean by that is I felt like every single person who got hurt was Washington. And that might be partially because of, or the blue chip ratio, and they just have better recruits in Michigan. They have bigger people. They have just more physical human beings than Washington
luck.
does. And I think,
luck.
bad luck part of it
Some of
is
it.
too, but that's going to come into play when we add 2 games to these playoffs next year.
True.
Yes,
So-
that's actually the point I'm getting into. Is
Yeah.
you add 2 more games, suddenly you can't sustain injuries the
No.
way that we've seen teams the last 2 weeks be sustaining injuries, guys having to hobble off, coming back on. You're going to get to a point where only certain teams, your Alabamas, your Georgias, your Michigans, your Ohio States, your Oklahomas, are going to be able to make it that far because they're the only teams with enough depth to do it. It's just a really interesting point to me. We might even see the cream rise to the top even more in a 12-team playoff.
Yeah, I
agree
mean
more.
they're gonna have to. I'm interested. I don't know if they've released the scheduling and stuff for it next year. I'm interested to
just
see
did,
how they
actually.
how they
It starts right before Christmas. The first round is December 20th, and it's the following week, and then it's the following week.
so they're
it's
doing
an insane
back
schedule.
to back to back.
I believe so, yeah.
And
Starting
the
Oh,
January.
final
okay.
is, but the final is MLK Day. So I think that they do get 1
wow.
week at some point.
Possibly, which would make sense.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
But yeah,
But the first round games are on
And top 4
campuses.
gets a bye. So
Yes.
okay,
The
all right.
second round games, including those top 4 teams with buys, go directly to bowl game sites. So if
Mhm.
you get a bye, you don't get a home game, which is just weird.
But you want the bye more than you probably want the
But
home game.
you probably want the bye.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
Because
rest.
again, the rest and just not having to take as many hits.
Yeah.
Literally just avoiding hits.
Mhm.
My last thing on this guy, I want to ask you guys, with the cheating scandals, and obviously we're probably going to learn more about it, does this diminish what Jim Harbaugh has done over the last 3 seasons? Because you can argue Michigan's been the best team for the last 3 seasons. They're 40-3 with 3 college football appearances and obviously 1 national title game. I mean, that's quite the record, and obviously bringing a title to his alma mater. But this, I mean, obviously what could come out later, is that completely diminish and erase what Jim Harbaugh has done? It's a pretty phenomenal feat.
I love how you're just tossing this into the
I-
conversation
yeah.
like a grenade.
It's a great question. For me, if you look at the last 3 years, 100% absolutely diminishes it. If you look at the last half of Michigan's season, I don't think it really diminishes it for me. The head coach was suspended. That does mean something. He was on the sideline. They still beat Penn State. They still beat Ohio State. And then they went in and beat Alabama, who was the second best team in the playoffs this year. So credit where credit's due from that side of things, but yeah, I think it diminishes it to a certain extent. Maybe not the back half of their season, but over the last 3 years, 100%.
Watered down field, and they had to steal signs to get there. Absolutely, it diminishes it.
Right?
Thoughts from me?
You
Yeah.
have to drop a take on this. We're not avoiding things here. We're
I
going
think,
after the Wolverines.
Yeah, it diminishes it, but at the same time, I do not to Harbaugh himself, but I would the credit to the players this back half of the season, like Pat has been saying, who have like basically pushed through all of this adversity and everything that has come their way the past couple months and still went out on that field, played really well, and won a national championship. So I have a lot of thoughts on Harbaugh and how this all played out, but overall, the most important thing is I think that the students went out there, the players went out there, and they won a national championship, and I think that's great for them. So
You have a lot of thoughts on Harbaugh, and given his possible NFL future, we may never get to them again, Ryan. So here's the time. Let's air it out.
I actually
Let's-
think
I think it's absolutely ridiculous that we can suspend a head coach for 6 games and have evidence around cheating in the coaching department and somehow just be like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Like I think it's ridiculous.
well, I don't
And-
even know.
And I think it's absolutely more ridiculous that this dude is going to leave the NCAA next year, wash his hands of it. He got everything he wanted, bounces. I don't like it.
Yeah.
So I don't like it. I think it's sketchy and I think it's gross. But-
Sleazy.
The players, good for them. You know,
Is an investigation going to happen? Because I could still see one
It's
taking
happening
place.
now.
it's happening
Okay,
right now.
great.
The, NC,
Yeah,
they
the
have to wait
until
NCAA
after.
is
Yeah.
mid-investigation, but it's like you can't tell a team that's under investigation. I mean, you could. That's under investigation. Hey, you don't get to be in the playoff
Yeah.
because we think
Yeah.
you might cheat.
No.
Right.
We might be cheating.
Well, they're
Right.
not under investigation anymore. They know the answer. They're just going to come out with it next week, so they didn't have to deal with it during this time.
Well, I also bet like, hey, they won, and do we really want to deal with it all? Let's
They'll
hush this
postpone
thing.
it for a while.
Yeah,
They'll wait
they'll push
until
it, push it,
Harbaugh
push it.
leaves. They'll wait till Harbaugh leaves. At that point, it's just like a slap on the wrist for him.
Yeah.
They might. Who knows if they'll actually pull the championship? But really, they
They won't.
pulled the championship.
So funny. Oh my god, it'd be so funny. See them all
So-
tweet bet.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
All right, guys. Well, let's do MVPs of that game and then get out of here.
Oh, did you wanna
I think we're good. But
all right.
before
Okay.
MVPs, remember to go to thefanstop.com. Use our promo code PGUID for 15% off their Shirt of the Month Club or 15% off their game day polos. Really cool stuff that you can get to your door every
Orders
single
it.
month. Our promo code works for the first 3 months of their Shirt of the Month Club. So go ahead and use it. MVPs, guys.
You want to go, Pat? You wanna
Sure, I'll go
start?
first. Connor Stallions. Congratulations on your championship.
So good.
I knew someone was
So
gonna say
good.
that. Yeah.
You know he's gonna get a
A
ring.
news.
Oh, yeah, he's got a ring.
Oh,
Already.
he's got one.
He's getting
Sure.
like donors get rings. Of course he's getting a ring.
Yeah.
Also, what a dream to be a donor that gives enough that you get the ring. That's sick. I'll go next. I'm gonna go Don Yee. Who Jim Harbaugh just hired as his new agent. He's got tons of NFL ties. In any event, whether he returns to Michigan for a fat raise or he goes to the NFL, Jim Harbaugh is going to make much more money than he does now. And Don Yee, for like a few weeks of work, is going to get, 4% of that tons of money? Good for Don Yee, man. My MVP. That's living good.
I
Ryan?
love how none of us are actually talking about the game. So I will
my
do
Yeah,
the
well,
one about the
what do
game.
you
I'm
want?
gonna
We're
give
Oklahoma
and
guys.
maybe Gan and I have the same one. I'm gonna give mine the Blake Corum, running back for the Wolverines. He has been historically injured in all of their playoffs before this. The last two, or was it just that last year? I
I
don't
know
remember.
last year. I don't
He
know
was
about.
he was hurt last year, and he's been great all season. And I know that he got recognized for like doing a lot of charity work and everything like that. I saw that. He just seems like a really good dude, and good for him. Congratulations, man! Like you came back, you did it.
He balled out.
And now, and now you can go to the NFL, or if he's a little small, but if he
He
gets to
saved
that,
me
though.
financially last night. So
Did he?
shout out to Blake.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
I'm going to go not a player, but a coordinator. I'm going to go defensive coordinator Jesse Minter, who came up with pretty much 2 great game plans against a very good Alabama team the week before, and a game plan to contain this high-power Washington offense to only 13 points the entire game. I mean, that's very difficult to do with 2 completely different style of quarterback with Jalen Milroe and Michael Penix Jr. So got to give it up to defensive coordinator Jesse Minter for coming up with just some great defensive coordination on those games. That's my MVP.
That was
Love
a
it.
great one, man.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Mark, before we wrap up, why don't you tell us a little bit more about our sponsors, thefanstop.com?
Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely. So if you're listening to this podcast right now, you should go to thefanstop.com and just check it out, right? If you're a Michigan fan, if you're a Washington fan, if you're just a fan of college football who stumbled upon this podcast, you're probably like us and need some more gear. So go check out thefanstop.com. All of it's officially licensed. You can sign up for their Shirt of the Month Club, where every single month delivered to your door, you're going to get a shirt, a long sleeve, a hoodie, and you can use our code PGUYZ, that's PGUYZ, to get 15% off of your first 3 months in that year-long subscription, or 15% off of their one-off game day polos, quarter zip. I don't actually know if it works on the quarter zip, but try it for sure. Patrick's saying yes, it does. So dynamite. And check it out. Send it to friends and family. It's a great gift. My mom has it. She loves it. And I can attest personally to the fact that they look good. They feel good. You open it up, they smell good. So yeah, go use our code PGUYZ, PGUYZ.
All right, then one more bold prediction for all of us. Who wins the national championship of college football next year? I'll go first.
Oh God.
I'll go with Georgia.
Pat goes, give me a bold prediction for
The
who
classic
wins it all next
answer.
year. I
All
get
right,
Georgia.
Sorry, I shouldn't have said bold, but I was about to say Ole Miss, but I'll go with Georgia.
I'm gonna say Bama. I think their
Matt?
quarterback's gonna be. Are we not explaining our answers? We're
No, you just get
okay.
one word.
Bama.
Yeah, Georgia.
Mark?
Georgia. What are we doing?
I mean, my real prediction is Georgia, people, but that's not a bold prediction. Bama really isn't a bold prediction either.
Yeah. All right. We got 3.5 Georgias and one kind of Alabama. And that does it for the program roundup. Thank you for joining. Mark, you got anything else?
No, that's okay. That's okay.
All right.
We'll get
Sounds
into
good.
it another time.
Go to thefanstop.com, folks. And Ryan, take us out.
Keep pushing it, baby.
3, 2, 1.
There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.